See, at some point along your Homelab journey, there might come a time when you want to expose yourself. But no, I don't mean it like that. Now, what I actually mean is exposing some of your services to the internet, because eventually you'll come across a setup that works perfectly for you. So you might need access to your NAS from outside of your home network, for example, or you've deployed a Docker image such as OpenWebUI that you want other people to be able to access as well. And for that, you are going to have to expose that service to the internet. And today we are going to talk about how you can do that safely and securely. We're going to talk about something called Tailscale, which is your very own VPN and is absolutely incredible. And we're going to cover a couple of topics. Now, what's so amazing about Tailscale is that there's literally no limit to what you can do with this. You can set up a Minecraft server for you and your friends to play across the internet completely for free. And I've already done a video, so make sure you click that link. You can also set up remote desktop support. So for example, if your parents have trouble with their desktop, you can set up something called Rustdesk and you're able to remote into that machine as if it's on your local network. But then we are going to focus our attention on what's called Cloudflare. Now, you will need your own domain. Now, I'm not going to cover getting your own domain in this video, but it's pretty straightforward. You just go somewhere like FastHost, even Cloudflare, do domains. So you just purchase a domain. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. It just needs to be something that you want to be able to use to expose some of the stuff to the internet. But the best thing of all is that you will not have to do any port forwarding. All of the exposing stuff
Now I'm panicking.
will happen from either Cloudflare or Tailscale. Now, this is going to be the final part of the Homelab series because we've covered everything from hardware all the way now to exposing your services to the internet. But for now, let's jump over to the computer and let's get Tailscale set up. Now, in order to get Tailscale up and running, it's super simple. The first thing you need to do is you just need to download the client onto your PC. So in my case, I would download it for macOS, but I've already got it up and running. And I want to show you this with a system that's already configured. As I said, you basically just download it for Windows, Mac, Linux, Androids, even for your iPhone. And I will actually be showing you how to access the NAS from outside of the network. And I'm going to show you how to do this over 5G because the IP address is constantly changing. And I want to show you that you can still access it with the magic of Tailscale. I've gone ahead and downloaded it, but you just install it as normal. Now, the next thing you're going to have to do is once you've kind of signed into your admin console. Now, I've already got all my kind of devices on here, but one of the things I recommend you do, and that's a bit of a security thing and a bit of peace of mind in a way, is you want to click on settings in the top right hand corner. Then you want to go down to user management, and here you can see all the info where I'm, for example, signing in with my Google account. But if you scroll down, you can see user approval and require new users to be approved by admins before they can access the network. And I tick this box on, and what that means is that every time somebody joins your Tailnet, even if it's somebody you trust, you still have to manually approve them, and that just adds an extra layer of security. Now, on the left, if you click on device management, I do the same for device management. So device approval here, manually approve devices, I tick this on, and that's very much the same. So if a device comes on, and even if I've given it a Tailscale key or an auth key, I still have to manually add the device to the system. So you can't just have random devices and random people joining your Tailnet. And that just adds, as I said, another layer of security. Now, in order to get Tailscale up and running on TrueNAS, obviously sign into your TrueNAS, because for me, as I said, I absolutely love TrueNAS, and it's just the easiest way of running Docker containers. Even if you don't use any of the features of TrueNAS, and I've done a full video about TrueNAS, and that is linked down below the like button, where we go through step by step on configuring NAS, configuring TrueNAS with the apps, and running LXC containers, and running VMs and everything like that, because to me, TrueNAS is just absolutely brilliant. In order to get it installed on TrueNAS, you literally click on apps, discover apps, and here I'm going to type in Tailscale. I'm going to click on install. Now I'm going to give it a name, and I'm just going to call it Tailscale Demo. Scroll down to everything, the host name as well. I'm going to call it Tailscale Demo, just so I can distinguish it once I'm in the admin console, because I need to show you how to kind of approve the device. Now, all the other stuff I'm going to leave as is, but under auth key, here is where you need to get your key from the admin console. So I'm going to go into my admin console. I'm going to click on settings, and then in the bottom left hand corner it says keys, and here we've already got a key, but I'm going to generate another one, and I'm going to call this TSTN demo. I'm going to leave everything as is. Now, keep in mind, this is a one-time key, So if I use it, even if you see the key, you won't be able to use it. And I'm just going to generate the key, and here's the key. I'm going to copy it, and on my TrueNAS instance here, I'm going to paste it where it says auth key. Now everything else pretty much is going to stay as is. Host network is fine. Now storage configuration I leave as is, but I've done the video about kind of why you would use a host path versus an IX volume. And as I said, everything else can stay as is. Now resources wise, if it's just to access the NAS, you don't really need that much. But again, I've done a whole video on this. And then I'm going to click install and let it install. So it's pretty quick. We can see here Tailscale demo is deploying for the time being. Let's give it a second. So if we take a look at our machines here in the admin console, we can see TrueNAS scale demo because that's what I've named it. And it still needs approval. And this is the bit that I was talking to you about the settings and where you have to manually approve those devices. So I now click the three dots on the right hand side and I click approve. And now it is officially in our Tailscale network. And there we go, it's now up and running in our installed applications, and obviously it is also here. So if we take a look now in our admin console, we can see TrueNAS scale demo. We can also see the IP, and that is an internal IP address. And this is essentially how you're going to access your TrueNAS server from within your network, basically within your tailnet, what it's called. So I've got the IP address here. You can also use TrueNAS-scale-demo, for example, but if I copy this and I paste it into the browser and I press enter, I will be able to, as you can see, access my TrueNAS instance because of that IP address. So I've just clicked into the machine there, and there are many more things that you can do. Obviously, you can rename the machine. You can set it as exit nodes. If you want me to do a more in-depth video about Tailscale and how to use it, by all means, let me know in the comments, because there are many cool features with this, such as exit nodes, subnet routing, and all this sort of stuff. But I don't want the video to get too long. But let me now switch over to my phone, because I've already got Tailscale up and running on my phone, and I'm going to show you how I can access this NAS whilst I'm on a 5G connection. So on our phone now, we're going to have to download the app first, and it's just called Tailscale. Pretty straightforward. You can see the reviews as well. It is a really, really good app. And once you open it, you can obviously see that you're connected, and you can see all the other devices on your network. And in my case, what I'm looking for is the TrueNAS scale demo here. And if I click into it, I can see the IPv4 address, which is exactly the one I'm going to need. I can also see the DNS name here. But I'm going to copy the IP address. Now I'm now on my Files app on the iPhone, and I'm on 5G here, and I wanted to show you how this works with 5G because the IP address is constantly changing. I wanted to show you how you can access obviously your NAS from your phone. Now obviously if you're in a coffee shop, you would do the exact same thing. You just need that 100.IP address, and that is how you're going to be able to access it. So I'm now going to click on the top right on the three dots, then it says connect to server, and here I'm going to paste the IP address in. So it's 100.108.23. I'm going to press OK. It will ask me to authenticate. Now, if you've seen my TrueNAS video, you will have to create a username in order to be able to access the NAS. Now, as I said, I've gone over all of this in my previous video, and it will be linked in the description down below. But I've already entered my username and password, and I'm going to click OK, and it's now connected me to my server. And we can see I've got a NAS demo server here, and I've created a couple of test folders. And here is essentially how I can access the NAS from outside. And obviously, it would be the exact same on your laptop, for example, or any other device, even iPads. Now, I've got this configured, for example, for my dad, that when he travels, he just takes his iPad with him and he can back up his photos directly to his home server purely with the power of Tailscale. Again, another brilliant use case for Tailscale, and I highly, highly recommend you check it out. So the final piece to this puzzle is to show you how you can get some of your services exposed to the internet correctly and safely without having to do any port forwarding on your router. And this is the beauty of Cloudflare, and why Cloudflare is absolutely brilliant. Now, this is literally just scratching the surface of Cloudflare. I highly recommend you set up an account with Cloudflare. It is completely free, and what we're doing is completely free. And honestly, it's an incredible service that they offer. With the magic of TrueNAS and their app system, and then a couple of clicks in Cloudflare, we can get this up and running super, super easily. Now, in order to get this set up, the first thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to click into TrueNAS and go into apps. And then obviously you're going to have to install an app. Now we're going to look for Cloudflare. It's called Cloudflare D because it's the Cloudflare daemon. So that's why it's called Cloudflare D. Don't worry, it's not the dodgy version. It is the correct version. Then we're going to click install. Now here you can leave everything as is. Now under tunnel, here is where we need a token. And this is how you're going to get the token. So you're going to sign into your Cloudflare dashboard, and you will need a domain for this. Now, these are my domains. I use them for kind of demo purposes just to mess around with this. I don't generally use them. So we're going to use one of my domains, but obviously you need to purchase one in advance. There are websites that do them for literally as little as £1, and ultimately it's just the domain that you need. It doesn't have to be anything fancy if you just want to play around with it. So once you have your domain, on the left hand side, we're going to select Zero Trust. Wait for the pages to load, and then on the left hand side again, we're going to click on Networks and then Tunnels. And here is where we're going to create our tunnel. So we're going to click on Add Tunnel, and then on the left hand side again, it says Cloudflare D. So we're going to click Select Cloudflare D. Here we're going to give it a name. Now I'm going to call it TrueNAS Demo. Click Save. Now here I tend to click on Docker because it's just for me the easiest way of doing things, but we need this token. And if you take a look on the screen, we have -- token, and then it starts with EY and so on and so on. The easiest thing I found is to copy this token, open a text editor, and then paste it in, and then remove everything else before that EY. So it looks like this. It's going to be a long token, but if you've done it correctly, it should look something like this. Now, this token is going to get deleted the second this video goes live, so this token is not reusable. I'm going back to my TrueNAS instance, and here I'm going to paste it in under tunnel token. So mode is token, and tunnel token is the token that I've literally just copied. Everything else can stay as is. All of this is fine. Now here's the one key thing that we need to make sure is enabled. Under network configuration, we need to tick host network. And then at the bottom, once again, we have resource configuration. Now again, you can give it as many or as few resources as you want. Now, depending on how much stuff you're going to be running through, you can give it a bit more, but I'm going to go turn to 1, and then I'm going to give it 1 gig of RAM just to configure it. And then I'm going to hit install. I'm going to give it 2 seconds. But it is pretty straightforward and pretty quick. So there we go. Cloudflare is now up and running. So if I now head back to my Cloudflare tunnels section, you can already see the connectors at the bottom here. And it tells me the connector ID and the status of it. Then we're brought through to this route traffic here. And this is where you can link your domain to your internal service. So here I'm going to call it uptime, just because that's all I need to use. The domain, I'm going to use a generic one here. So it's going to be uptime.mydomain. Now under service underneath, I'm going to type in HTTP, and then under URL, it's going to ask me for the internal IP address. So in my case, it's going to be 10.0.40.10. And if I click into the web UI page, port is going to be 31050. So I need to enter all of this here, like so, without the HTTP. So it's 10.0.40.10 and then colon 31050, because that's the port of the container. Now, obviously, you have to know what the ports are. So if you want to run Open Web UI, that'll have a different port. If you don't know what ports are, go ahead and watch my previous video where I go briefly into ports, where I explain that they are basically a bit like a block of flats or a block of apartments, and each apartment inside of that block is its own port. So the address, the main address is the same, which is 123 Main Street, but then you would put an apartment at the end of it, apartment 4, apartment 6. In this case, it's apartment 31050. So once you've entered that, you're going to click complete setup and then give it a second. But it says it's successfully created the DNS record, which is how Cloudflare looks it up. And then we technically should be able to access it now. In order to add more services, because that's the beauty, you don't have to install Cloudflare every single time you want to add a service or add a Docker container to this. You will get presented with this page here, and it will say tunnel name and then TrueNAS demo, or whatever you've called it. I usually click on it, then click on edit in the top right hand corner, and then I click on public host names in the top right hand side. Now here, if I click add public host name, I can carry on and adding all my services. Usually I have 1 or 2 that I need to add. As I said, I've had my Open Web UI running on here and a couple of other services. But for the sake of this, we can see the public host name, which is uptime.mydomain. And then you have the service on the right hand side, which is HTTP 10.0.40.10.31050. If I was to click on this domain now, it should take me to that page. And here we are. We can see we are using the external fully qualified domain name with a valid certificate. So we don't get the error of saying this page might be insecure, somebody might be trying to steal your data. And if I go back to my demo version here, we can also see 10.0.40.10.31050 setup. It brings me to the exact same page. So we've got this page here and we've got this page, and they both are the same page. It points to the exact same thing. Now, obviously, keep in mind, if this is how you want to set things up, you will have to have the server running. So obviously, if you turn the server off where the Docker container is, it will naturally not be working. So this is a mistake that I've made in the past, where I've had stuff running on my PC and I've got, you know what, it's a bit noisy or whatever it is, and I turn it off and then I try and access it from outside the home network, and it's just obviously not working. But that's basically it. You can then go back into your apps and look for something else, which is, say, open a web UI like so, and then you would go ahead, install it just as normal, and then point to it basically in the Cloudflare tunnel section here, where you'd add another public host name, where you'd click on add and then enter the subdomain, so whatever you want that to be, and then select the domain that you have. As I said, make sure you register the domain with Cloudflare so it knows the domain, and usually it's best to just purchase it straight through Cloudflare, because they are genuinely absolutely incredible. The amount of stuff that they offer for free, it's just mind-boggling. They offer things like DDoS protection, so many other things. So yeah, go ahead and check them out. They're not sponsoring this video. I wish they were, because they are genuinely an incredible company. But this essentially concludes the series on the whole Homelab system. Now, I've got a video coming up where I accidentally build the kind of best server for my needs. I genuinely have stumbled across all the parts that I've got, so make sure you like and follow, because yeah, it's a pretty cool video if I do say so myself, but then again, I am a little bit biased. So let me know if there are any other videos you'd like me to make, any other series or anything like that. I'm thinking maybe Windows Active Directory, or setting up Intune and Entra 365, something like that, because I know that has been requested before. But other than that, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.